Well, I was born and raised in Jacksonville and played baseball and had a fairly normal childhood and family. They provided me everything I needed. And playing sports, I also played football, which I loved more than baseball. And I broke my arm at 14 years old, and they prescribed me pain pills. And that was the beginning of me being led astray. After being introduced to the pain pills and not playing football anymore, I started hanging out with the kids in the neighborhood. They were selling drugs and doing drugs. We were smoking weed every day, and everything progressed, my drug use and just being out in the streets and selling drugs. And so I got caught up in listening to gangster rap and really, fell in love with it and started conforming to that lifestyle and was led astray. Started seeking out those people who were living that lifestyle and wanting to live like that, thinking that that was the way to be and thinking it was cool. And when I got into high school, I already had a pretty bad drug habit and I was living a double life. I was still playing baseball, still doing really well, on track to have a scholarship to, college, and was still doing drugs and then going out to practice, going out to the ball games, and I was selling drugs, and everybody in the school knew it, but because I was an athlete and we were an athletic school, they kind of, kept it on the hush until a girl overdosed in class and passed out, and then when they woke her up, she told on me. I ended up getting kicked out of school, and that ruined the opportunity to have a scholarship, and ended up going to a Christian school though. God took what the enemy meant for evil and he turns it for good. And I went to the Christian school, got saved January 20th, 2005, and I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for me getting in trouble at the other school, and went on to win a state championship at baseball. But I was still living that double life. Ended up graduating from there, still partying with the kids on my side of town, and going to a party. I ended up getting really drunk and getting into a car accident with one of my friends, and both of our cars were totaled. That led into some problems with the local kids and a couple fights, and things just got worse, and I was headed down a downward spiral. And in 2013, my best friend passed away. He overdosed, and I was actually more reckless than him with the drug use, so that was a huge wake-up call for me. And I was praying every day for God to change my life and for him to bless me with the wisdom and knowledge of his will for me and the power to carry it out. And one day he started showing up. He started answering those prayers, and I started seeing 11:11 on the clock. And at first I brushed it off as coincidence because I was in such a hopeless state of mind. I went and looked up the significance of 11:11 on the clock, and I could only read one sentence. The experience was so overwhelming. It was an encounter with God that changed everything. And the sentence that I read was, seeing 11:11 repeatedly in your physical reality represents a major upcoming spiritual awakening or epiphany of some kind. And I knew it deep within my heart that that was God speaking to me and calling me out of that lifestyle and into a life of purpose. In 2013, after this spiritual awakening, I finally surrendered to go into treatment after years of my mother putting an addiction counselor on the phone every time I showed up. And finally, I listened to what they had to say, and I surrendered to go into treatment. So getting out of treatment, I ended up going a year and a half without drinking or doing any drugs, and things were going good. But I wasn't done. I wasn't done with that lifestyle. God had to work on me a lot, the sanctification process. And there were ups and downs. I ended up in jail a few more times. I ended up in treatment a few more times. And God was working on me through all of it, the ups and the downs. And every time I would take my will back, he would allow me to obtain what I thought I wanted, only to feel even more empty inside. And then he would take it all away, and that would shift me more and more towards his purpose for my life. With those ups and downs, there was a lot of hopeless situations. There were a lot of, sleepless nights, and my parents were scared for my life and restless. But I will say that, keep the faith. If you're struggling, God always makes a way, and he changed my life. And I'm here today because he made a way. And I just don't want anybody to lose hope, whatever they're facing right now, because God loves them and there's a purpose for their life. I tell the enemy every day what Joseph told his brothers in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And I see him doing that in my life as I'm leading Recovery Church downtown West Palm Beach and inspiring others and sharing my story, sharing my music. If I didn't go through what I went through, then I wouldn't be the man I am today, and I wouldn't be able to reach the demographic that I'm reaching today. And, I'm just grateful to be here and grateful that God made a way.